सदियों की प्रतीक्षा के बाद हमारे राम आ गए। ये क्षण अलौकिक है, ये पल पवित्रतम है। हमारे लिए ये अवसर सिर्फ विजय का नहीं, विनय का भी है। राम आग नहीं है, राम ऊर्जा है। राम विवाद नहीं, राम समाधान है। राम सिर्फ हमारे नहीं है, राम तो सबके हैं। राम भारत की आस्था है, राम भारत का आधार है। राम भारत का विचार है, राम भारत का विधान है। राम भारत की चेतना है, राम भारत का चिंतन है। राम भारत की प्रतिष्ठा है, राम भारत का प्रताप है। राम प्रवाह है, राम प्रभाव है। राम नेति भी है, राम नीति भी है। ये भव्य राम मंदिर साक्षी बनेगा भारत के उत्कर्ष का, भारत के उदय का। ये भव्य राम मंदिर साक्षी बनेगा भव्य भारत के अभ्युदय का, विकसित भारत का। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय।
Co-presented by Good evening, welcome to Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. A day after the Ram Mandir inauguration, there is politics in full flow. The Congress has attacked Prime Minister Modi for politicizing Ram. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has said that this is the BJP's Ram and that the Congress believes in Gandhi's Ram. This is in stark contrast to what the Prime Minister said yesterday from the Ayodhya Mandir after the inauguration of the Mandir, that Ram is everyone's. Ram sabke hai. How can the events of yesterday, which the Congress and other opposition parties are saying is political in nature, how can the events of yesterday, which is a milestone in the journey of the civilizational state, how can it be reduced to the mere political orchestrations of a party? Does the event of yesterday go beyond politics? And perhaps there, did the Congress and the opposition miss a trick first in not attending the Pran Pratishtha and now attacking the government for the politics of it? But first, let's get you up to speed with how this is now becoming an issue front and central in the run-up to the Lok Sabha campaign.
विचार है, राम भारत का विधान है, राम भारत की चेतना है, राम भारत का चिंतन है, राम भारत की प्रतिष्ठा है, राम भारत का प्रताप है.
महात्मा गांधीजी रामन्न पूजिस्तीವಿ. बीजेपी रामन पूजिಸಲ್ಲ.
Indian secularism means the separation of religion and state. However, of late, the line that demarcates religion and state seems to be getting thinner and thinner.
So the narrative war is already started. Sabke Ram versus the BJP's Ram. Joining us on the talking point this evening, Tuin Sinha is national spokesperson of the BJP. Will be joined in a moment by A. Saravanan, spokesperson of the DMK. Ghanshyam Tiwari, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Smita Prakash is editor of ANI. Ghanshyam, let me start with you first. First, the opposition decided in its wisdom to boycott the Pran Pratishtha ceremony. Now, a day after, you have the Congress and other opposition parties saying, look, the Ram that was unveiled yesterday is not Gandhi's Ram, he's BJP's Ram, he's Narendra Modi's Ram. Aren't you reducing one of the most revered gods and an event like what happened yesterday to the mere binary of politics?
Good evening, Zaka, to you, my fellow co-panelists and the viewers. Three things are important. First and foremost, I congratulate the government and the trust for organizing an event that has elated every heart in the country. And definitely it is a powerful moment for the nation. To reduce this as into a political event is what BJP is good at. We have never led the political dimension of this, nor we do it right now. And it is BJP by not inviting the Honorable President or by ensuring that Advaniji does not attend the event. And many other ways BJP ensured that this remains an event that is as much religious as political, and it creates a reincarnation of a model of Hindu religion which is also political.
That's but Ghanshyam, why did the opposition boycott if it was not political? For what reason did you boycott?
No, we see this as an event that was led by the political machinery heft of BJP and BJP-ruled governments, and BJP outrightly made it a political event. We stand with that. And as far as the worship of Bhagwan Ram is concerned, everyone who's watching your program, be it a leader, be it a bureaucrat, be it a viewer, any citizen of the country, would visit the temple with their family without the cameras focusing on them, with their astha, with their faith. So it is only BJP that displays their astha on camera. Okay. Otherwise, across the country, people don't display their astha on camera.
Okay, so Tuin Sinha, the accusation against you is that this was event management, this was a Modi function and less a Ram Lalla function. This was a political sort of orchestration of a party more than a display of religiosity or spirituality, and that you made this entire thing political. They're also saying that the Prime Minister of a secular state, why was he the chief Yajman or one of the Yajmans for the ceremony? He was more like a pontiff of the Hindu religion and less the leader of a secular state. Please respond.
Well, good evening. It's good evening, Zaka. Very happy Parakram Divas to you and to all the viewers. Well, the opposition, as always, is very myopic in its mentality. This was not event management. This was Rashtra Niti management. And like Honorable Prime Minister said, yesterday's event has set the governance paradigm for the next 1,000 years. This is what the opposition cannot fathom. This is what has left them in a state of trauma, besides the fact that the entire day passed off very peacefully and that the minority community has accepted the situation most gracefully, unlike this opposition which is finding out some fault or the other to vilify the BJP government. Why should Honorable Prime Minister not be at the forefront of Pran Pratishtha when his diligent participation in the Ram Mandir movement is well documented for the last 4 decades? There are various instances way back in 1986. India Today had brought out a report where it mentioned that as the head of RSS in Ahmedabad, his efforts were being viewed with everybody, especially when he would travel to surrounding villages and build up passion for the Ram Mandir. So I don't think the opposition today has any grounds to criticize. But most importantly, since DMK representative is also on the show, the narrative which Prime Minister Modi has built around the temple construction in the days preceding the Pran Pratishtha, the way he has traveled to important locations associated with Ramayan, whether it was Lepakshi, whether it was Rameshwaram, all of that is going to deal a very big blow to the very idea of Dravidian politics, which is fake narrative, which was creating a divide between North and South India. So these are things which have clearly disgruntled our opposition, and that is why they are left in a
let me ask Saranand to respond to that. Ahead of yesterday's ceremony, the Prime Minister went to Srirangam, he went to Rameshwaram. He has incorporated and invoked all of those places, many of them in Tamil Nadu as well, which have a connection to the Ramayana. And what have you done? You have stopped people from watching this in LED screens, on private screenings inside temples, in which I believe has been said by the Finance Minister was a private temple, a privately held temple. Why are you, on the one hand, anti-religion, against the Hindu religion, against the inauguration of the Ram temple, yet at the same time the Prime Minister is making that extra effort to highlight the connections that Tamil Nadu has with the Ramayana? That's the accusation against you.
See, two things, Zaka. First and foremost, it is our leader, Mr. Udayanidhi's statement that we are not opposed to any temple built for Rama. We are not accepting the fact that it is being built by demolishing an existing mosque. And in the state of Tamil Nadu, people are smart enough to separate religion from politics, which the BJP wants to muddle. That is why BJP is not able to fare well in the state of Tamil Nadu. These are the things. The other thing is the BJP is scared now. After the inauguration of the Ram temple, it did not get enough political capital. This event was organized. The Ram temple was not fully built. It is not complete yet. But still, the Prime Minister went ahead and inaugurated so that it will be before the 2024 elections. Their calculations show that it did not yield them enough political dividend. So what they do? They send the Union Finance Minister. What's her job? Her job is to look at and nurture the economy of the country. What does she do? She spreads fake news. She spreads rumors. The Madras High Court in its judgment has said it is per se, the Tamil Nadu government per se has not prohibited or restricted any pujas or anything, but what did the Finance Minister
we had
say?
Pictures,
she said
we had
Tamil Nadu government
in one
is
particular
prohibiting
temple.
Everything.
Saranand, once again, we had pictures, I wish our producers can play that as Saranand is speaking. These are pictures from yesterday morning of one temple in Kanchipuram, I believe, where you can see LED screens being dismantled. The temple administration is dismantling that,
So-
and they then came out and said that this is because the district
Yes.
collector has asked us to.
Yeah. See what is the fake news spread by the Union Finance Minister, that the Tamil Nadu government is not allowing any pujas, reciting of Ram Nama inside the temples on the day of inauguration ceremony. They did not speak about LED. Is puja part of watching this thing LED in an LED screen is part of the puja? So the narrative is very clear. They want to portray as though the DMK government is against Hindus. It is the BJP which is against the Hindus. The Shankaracharyas, they said the Prime Minister should not have gone ahead and inaugurated it. And one more point, the most important thing is this: why no women leaders there? We have Madam President from a tribal community. Why was she not? She was not invited for the opening of the Parliament House. She is not invited for the inauguration of Ram Temple. And why was Madam Nirmala Sitharaman not invited to Ayodhya? Is it this is because misogyny?
Since you said
Sanagana,
no women
which
were
we
invited,
oppose.
Smita was there. Smita was there yesterday.
For
One
social
second, one
justice
second. Please yield.
against
Smita, you were
demeaning
there.
women.
The opposition is trying to reduce what happened yesterday to the binary of politics. Fair enough. I mean, that's the opposition's job. Their job is to oppose the government. But as a person who witnessed what you saw yesterday firsthand in front of your eyes, unfold in front of your eyes, how do you see the events of yesterday and the attempt by the government and its people to try and frame it as a larger than life civilizational moment, and yet at the same time the attempt by the opposition to frame this as a political orchestration and event management by Modi and company?
Well, it was a very large and very grand event, as every channel has been showing. On the part that about the caste factor, that the president wasn't there, and because and the insinuation that it was because of her caste, inside the Garbhagriha when the ceremony was on, the yajmans who were there, the parivars who were there, out there were people from some in the hierarchical caste system of the lowest caste. I think Dome is one of the lowest castes. I'm not pretty sure. They are the ones who do I think Ghanshyam would know this. In Uttar Pradesh, in Varanasi, I think they conduct the last rites in Varanasi, if I'm not mistaken. They are the Dome caste people who conduct that. So they were there inside the Garbhagriha while you had the Udupi
Why no women?
Peshawar Mutt.
Why no women?
Once again, Saranan, one at a
Madam,
time.
can you answer why no women?
Saranan, don't do this.
Why no women?
No, Saranan.
I was there.
Please don't do this.
Why
Saranan,
no
don't do
women?
this, please. One at a time, let her finish, yeah.
Why you? There was inside the Garbhagriha, there was the governor of Uttar Pradesh who is a woman. I don't understand. Either you didn't see the ceremony, or you are just, somebody has given you some kind of random information which you're spouting out here just because you want to say something. Can I just complete what I was saying? So the caste, I have already dismissed that people from the low caste were also there. Women, I have already told you. As far as why was Nirmala Sitharaman not there, even Mr. Amit Shah was not there. They did not want to make this into a BJP event. They had people, look, whether the BJP, you might have a problem that the BJP is trying to take advantage of what they did. Fine. Zaka, if I may just, I'm not a spokesperson for the BJP, but somebody who has gone several times to Ayodhya since the 90s, covered this entire conflict. If you can give me a couple of seconds for this, or even 1 minute.
Sure.
What I want to just say is that the RSS, the VHP, the Bajrang Dal, they are the ones who spearheaded this temple movement. People like me, I was probably an interloper. People like the industrialists and the film stars, we were invited out there to witness this. But the people who have given their blood, sweat and tears is not the Congress party, are not journalists, are not industrialists, are not film stars, are not sportspersons. These were the people who are the thousands who came from different parts of India for the Shilanyas, who came as car sevaks, whose bodies were dumped at the Saryu River, who has spent lots of money and energy in bringing this and fighting it in court. They are the ones. And why should anybody else get credit for constructing this temple? And why should the BJP shy away from taking advantage of it? It was there for the DMK to do it. It was there for the Congress to do it. If they wanted it, they didn't do it. They objected. They fought over it. So from the 90s, I have been witness. I have seen it. Okay. I am the one who asked Mr. Advani, why do you have this in your agenda? Why do you have it in your manifesto? I asked him this point blank in an interview. And, they had to take a back seat. Mr. Vajpayee, Mr. Advani, all these people who were in the forefront, Uma Bharti, Sadhvi Ritambara, all these people had to take a backseat because the party decided to go the legal way. So, to expect the BJP now to be a shrinking violet, they're not going to do it. Why should they?
Ghanshyam, the larger problem for the opposition is that...
Zaka,
one second, Sarvan, I'll come to you one at a time. Ghanshyam, the larger problem for the opposition is you have not been able to find a language to counter this political Hindutva, as it were. Now, you can find fault with the Prime Minister, say, oh, he's mixing religion and politics. Fact is, it's resonating with people. Please explain to me, yesterday, across apartment complexes, across residential areas, traffic signals, people were bursting crackers well into the night. Now, you can't say that they're all BJP supporters or that they're political people. These were ordinary people. Some of it may be political orchestration, but not all of it. Yesterday, it was like people were lighting diyas. It was like Diwali come early. What explains that? You have not, or you have failed to find a political lexicon to counter political Hindutva.
Zaka, there are three important things. One is to complete to one particular segment that Smita very eloquently said, people who gave blood and sweat to the movement. There were also people who died in the riots. They also gave their blood, sweat, house, peace, families who died on 6th after the Babri Masjid demolition. So let us not forget the foundation of people of movement that has blood and sweat. That's one. The point two, yes, you are right that in a country which is 80% Hindu, no other political party has taken the view that we should mobilize the Hindu community on the idea of Hindu Rashtra, on the idea that of Hindus being superior to anybody else and everybody else going down to that superiority. Yes, we have, every other political party has believed in constitution. BJP has taken a leaf from politics in different parts of the world and continued that politics. We believed in Gandhi, they believed in Godse, and to this movement, their politics is winning. That is fine. But the point is that in the going into 2024 election, it is the people who will decide that do they want a politics that delivers your deeper faith in Bhagwan Ram alongside the propaganda of BJP, or do you want a politics that is answerable to the problems that India faces with respect to jobs, with respect to harmony, with respect to continuous inequality rise, the price rise, with respect to what happened with the women of the country, whether it is with Braj Bhushan Singh, whether it is the rapists of Bilkis Bano. It is for the people to decide. I think that the yesterday's event was a massive event with all political channels covering this for last 1 month, putting a mic in front of everybody, asking them, are you going, are you not going, whether you have been invited or not invited, but asking them every day. This was the agenda, syllabus for last 1 month. But the syllabus for the entire year is not this. Syllabus for the entire year is that for every job you put out there, today if CNN News 18 or ANI puts a job, 200 people will apply. And they will not have trains to carry those people. There is no way we are giving jobs to youth. That is the syllabus for 2024.
Yeah, it would be naive to imagine that 2024 election is going to be decided on this issue. On the same, it would be absolutely politically naive to think that this issue, what happened yesterday, the events of yesterday, will not swing people who may not be BJP supporters, who may be sitting on the fence, who may even be not particularly fond of the BJP, but having seen the events of yesterday, may be inclined to supporting them. Now, be that as it may, this is not so much about the 2024 elections.
For 1 month, Zaka, just one sentence. For For 1 month,
Zaka,
the
can I
entire
come in,
media
Zaka?
focused on the Prime Minister and this particular event. Do you think that will not mobilize?
No,
But
no.
the question is are we here to believe that the youth who have not found jobs in last 10 years,
No.
people whose backs are broken because of the
one
policies
second.
of this government, the farmers,
I have a
will
difference.
they turn
I have a
blind
point of
eye?
difference there.
That is the question that we
I have a
face.
point of difference there. I think yesterday's event was bigger than any one individual, as big as any individual might be. It was bigger than the Prime Minister. Yesterday was a seminal moment. Whether or not there will be political benefits of it, that's a separate debate altogether. But Tuin Sinha, the accusation against you is that India and India's founding fathers after independence had a social compact that the foundational ideals of this country would be that the state is secular. When Nehru was asked about temples and the state's role in building or rebuilding temples, he said, for me, dams are modern India's temples. Yesterday, with the Prime Minister leading the Pran Pratishtha, the opposition is saying that compact is dead. India is no longer, it may be in namesake terms, the word secular might be there in the constitution, but yesterday, India ceased to become a secular republic. That's the accusation from the opposition.
You know, Zaka, that's exactly what makes yesterday's day very special. In the last 75, 76 years, we were constantly indoctrinated about the fact that Vikas and Virasat cannot coexist. We were constantly, told that Pragati and Parampara cannot coexist. I think all those self-trappings of a pseudo-secular state has been put to an end yesterday. You know, while you just mentioned rightly that 2024 will not be decided based on the Pran Pratishtha, 2024 has already been decided based on the work which has happened in the last 9.5 years. The massive infrastructure creation, the massive manner in which 25 crore people have been brought out of multi-dimensional poverty. These are issues where we have drawn inspiration from Ram Rajya, as Prime Minister Modi has made it very clear, but somehow the opposition cannot comprehend it because of their fundamental fixation with a flawed concept of secularism, which has been done away with, which has been dispensed with most people in the country. And that is why, like you mentioned, the celebration yesterday was not a BJP sponsored celebration. The celebration was a very innate celebration coming naturally from people who until 10 years ago may not have felt so strongly about a moment like this.
Okay, Saravanan, you said in your first answer that this was a politically orchestrated event and that, your position as articulated by your leader is that any temple that's built on a raised mosque, that you're against. But the Supreme Court cleared the way for this. This was not an act of parliament or a brute majority passing a law to build the temple there. This was the Supreme Court constitutional bench, 5-judge bench in a unanimous judgment that paved the way for the building of this temple. How would you respond to that as a lawyer?
Yes, the same Supreme Court did not say that there was a structure beneath it, that it was the masjid was built upon destroying or destructing an already existing structure. That is also the finding of the Supreme Court. And the BJP, when has it followed the Supreme Court?
Say that again. Sorry.
On the election,
clarification.
Of election commissioners
clarification on that point.
The
The judgment, as I understand, explicitly said that the mosque was built on the remains of a 12th century structure. I can ask my research team to pull that out. This is my understanding of what the judgment said. There are other learned people on the panel. I can check with them as well. Yeah.
Okay. See that apart. See, when has the BJP followed the Supreme Court judgments? The electoral appointment of chief electoral officer, the Supreme Court CJI said he has to be the CJI, the institution of CJI has to be part of the selection process. They passed a law against it. What about the Delhi ordinance? They overruled, the parliament overruled the Supreme Court. So the BJP, when it is convenient, they will take the Supreme Court. When it is not convenient, they will ditch the Supreme Court judgment. So that is not the argument.
Okay.
In 1999, BJP was supported by DMK. We had a common minimum program. For BJP, remaining in power is what it most, nothing else. They signed a common minimum program which said we will not take any attempts to construct Ram temple They said we will not abrogate Article 370, we will not make any attempts to impose uniform civil code. This was signed by the BJP in 1999, then only they were able to form the government.
Okay,
so for the BJP, it is not about, it is not about,
okay.
Let me complete my argument, then you can.
I just want to read out, my research team has just sent us what the Supreme Court said in its constitutional bench order, unanimous order. We cannot reject the ASI report as conjectural. This is the ASI report by Mr. K.K. Mohammed. The Babri Mosque was not built on some vacant land. The underlying structure was not Islamic. Artifacts have a distinct non-Islamic nature. There is evidence of a 12th century structure at the site. This is from the Supreme Court judgment.
Yes. Yeah. So, was it Ram temple? Did the Supreme Court say a Ram temple was destroyed and a masjid was built on that? That is that was the point.
Entire dispute, Saranan, the entire dispute was that Babur destroyed an existing temple in the birthplace.
There is no point. We can go ad nauseam. We can go up to.
The point is not that.
No, that's what we can go on arguing that. I have told you, the BJP accepted.
On the one hand, you are saying BJP overrides Supreme Court orders by bringing in laws. In this case, they have not done that. It's the law of the land as interpreted by the highest court of the land.
Yes, Zaka, that is what I am saying. When it is convenient to them, they will say Supreme Court judgment is supreme. When it is not convenient to them, they will say why should we follow the Supreme Court? It is not supreme. This is what the dubious double standard of the BJP. That is why I explained in 1999. They signed this common minimum
you
program
mentioned that, yes.
and gave up their pet
you
project.
mentioned that.
Why did they do that?
Yeah. Fair enough. Smita also referred to that, how in the Vajpayee-Advani era they had to make these political compromises.
I've got to make one more point.
Okay, very quickly, 10 seconds.
One more point, Zaka, I've got to make
quickly.
Yes, Zaka, see, you said there is no ideology against the opposition. The only ideology which will sink the BJP is the Dravidian ideology propounded by the DMK party, which is now accepted.
Okay.
That is the one thing which is uniting
all
the opposition parties together. With the Dravidian ideology, we will be able to
Smita, beyond the politics, beyond the humdrum of politics, which will continue till well into the Lok Sabha campaign period. But I want to know how yesterday's moment, for example, many are asking in op-eds and in edit page pieces today as to how yesterday's moment speaks to the Muslims of this country, speaks to the other minorities of this country. Has India ceased to become a secular republic with the Prime Minister of a secular state leading what was an overtly religious ceremony, a Pran Pratishtha? These are questions that the BJP also needs to make an attempt to try and answer, to reach out. Because as Mr. Mohan Bhagwat said, is जोश के समय में होश भी होना चाहिए. Yes, Smita.
Yes, I get that. And a lot of the foreign media has said, have written extensively, and television channels were shooting it. While we were in Ayodhya, we saw foreign networks were also there. And many of them are going to take the line that India's pluralism is under threat. And you can take that intellectual line. But the fact is that in India, it is not, when you talk about the separation of the church and state, as they say in the West, and it's church and it is religion and state in India, it's a concept that we accept. But in India, it's not religion as such which one talks about. It is Dharma, and Dharma goes beyond religion. It goes into ethos, it goes into your duty, it could be myths, legends, everything woven into it, traditions, culture, so many things which unite us as an Indian Muslim, as an Indian Hindu, as an Indian people of Indic religions, which is Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. So, there are various points which interlap when you talk about religion in India. And the other point, that being one point, the second which I want to make is that, everybody talks, and even journalists have been talking that when you hear on the loudspeaker, in the planes, everybody reciting the Hanuman Chalisa, will a Muslim who's traveling in the plane feel threatened because everywhere there are religious chants? What about a Sikh? Does he feel a minority, or a Buddhist? But the fact is that all across, the thing is that in India, religious beliefs and practices, why in India, anywhere in the world, Zaka, they are not private. Why do Christians go to church on a Sunday? Why do people practice Sikh Sangat? Why do you go to a Sangat and pray? Why do people pray 5 times in a mosque? Why do you do all that? It is because of a community feeling when you do religious worship. Yes, in some families, it is a private practice in the sense of keeping a Bhagwanji in the corner and you worship. That is a daily thing that you do. It's up to you as a person. You want to do it. It's an individual decision to do it. It's in Russia, China, North Korea maybe where it's state ordered that it is a private thing and it is not to be done. In India and in pluralistic societies, the emphasis is on tolerating it, whether you want to do it on the streets, whether you want to do it at home.
No, Ghanshyam, it comes back to what does yesterday's moment mean for India's continuance as a secular state. Now, to be fair, Nehru did not add the word secular in the constitution. The founding fathers did not add the word secular. It was brought in 1976 via the 42nd Amendment. And as Smita said, the classical French definition of separation of church and state will not apply in a civilizational state like India, because in India, Hindu is not just a religion, it's a way of life, it's Dharma. And Dharma transcends all of this. It transcends person, it transcends state. Therefore, to have the classical Western definition of secularism to apply to India, that many people are saying, including Smita on this show just now, was always a misnomer. It was a misfit.
Well, two things. The freedom struggle of India was a movement that was founded on secular principles. So, as a result, it was obvious that India was leading the world in terms of building a secular state when India gained freedom, when the world did not give a chance to India that our country will stay united. But Nehru, with his foundational thoughts, with thought leadership, and with the struggle for freedom across the country that everybody participated in, ensured that India remains united and became a thought leader in the country with its secular credentials. When those secular credentials are tested, then the preamble of the constitution changes. And I don't think that there is a big reason to complain that why does that secular word is added, because that was our character. Now, point number two, what Smita ji was saying, that Zaka, you are a Christian, I believe, right? If there are 100 people of Hindu religion surround you, and suddenly with surround sounds the religious slogans are played around your house, and some abuses are heard, this is exactly that happens in multiple places as processions happen. Do you think you will feel like an equal citizen? And when the police comes, they don't protect you, would you feel like an equal citizen? This is exactly what is happening when a Prime Minister says that kapdo ke rango se pehchana ja sakta hai, when Amit Shah ji plays his politics. So it is clear when Yogi Adityanath talks about his bulldozer politics, the state is overpowering in different ways through the media that will play every day, that will bring temples to the studio. We are seeing this. Now the minorities might not speak up because they are already overpowered. But those amongst us who grew up and owe everything that we of our thoughts to this secular idea of India have to speak up. Even if we don't speak up, then India will go towards the failed nations that others have tried to build on the basis of religion.
So,
India is powerful.
Tuhin, I'll give you the final word. I have to wrap up
in India.
Yeah, in a minute. And I go back to what the Prime Minister said yesterday, what the RSS chief said yesterday about इस जोश के समय में होश भी होना चाहिए. The Prime Minister said ये विजय की ही नहीं विनय का समय है. How are you going to reach out to people who may have genuine fears and insecurities? Not just about what happened yesterday, but the way in which comments have been made, the way in which certain sections have been targeted. These are realities on the ground. It's part of the record.
From the Samajwadi Party representative and my friend Ghanshyam Tiwari's comments, it was very clear that when Hindus celebrate, they believe that galis become imminent. Well, I think that mindset needs to change. I think even today, the biggest grouse of the Congress of what has put them in a traumatic situation is that what happened in Mira Road near Mumbai yesterday, where some people celebrating the event were attacked. That incident has not happened across the country, which is what this opposition was hoping for. The majority community has showed enormous restraint, but please don't deny them their right to justifiably celebrate. Nehru groomed, and a constituency he wanted to create in India, which by fault had become a very underconfident society. It had become a very self-flagelling society. Yesterday, we have, come out of the trappings of that underconfident society, and I think, Hindu community is evolved enough to celebrate in a very restrained manner and to take everybody along. I think it is only cynics on the other side who keep constantly doubting us and vilifying us.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I said this on yesterday's broadcast as well, and I think it's worth.
Zaka.
Saran, I'm completely out of time. I've got to move on to the next segment. But thank you very much. I just want to repeat this. At the cost of repetition, I said this last night. I'm saying this again. I think the fact that both on November 9th, 2019, when the Supreme Court verdict came, and yesterday, the 22nd of January, the fact that there was no major large-scale violence in this country is testimony, of course, to the administration and law and order machinery in various states, the central government, but at the same time, it's also testimony to the inherent tolerance of the people of this land. Because if the people are inherently tolerant, then no matter what is thrown at them, no matter what comes their way, they know how to hold the peace. And I think it's exemplary sort of behavior by society at large yesterday that all of these major events, these epochal events, have passed off without any kind of street violence, stuff which we have seen in this country in the not so recent past. So I think that's a big credit, that's a big plus for all our fellow citizens. I'm going to take a break here in the program. When we come back on the other side, it is going from one country faced with elections to another. We're going to be going across to the United States, where today is the New Hampshire primary. It's the first major primary in that country. The Republican field is whittled down to two contestants, Donald Trump, the former president, and his main challenger, Nikki Haley, who's of course of Indian origin, Indian descent. She's the former governor of South Carolina. Can she upset Trump and the Trump juggernaut in a state where she is fancying her chances? Quick break. That's right on the other side.
Presented by will do everything I can to prove to you that you made the right decision.
On the last day of campaigning before the New Hampshire primary, Nikki Haley dashed from one event to another. Tuesday could be her final chance to prevent Donald Trump from sealing the Republican nomination. In the final day of campaigning before the first primary of this election cycle, both Haley and Trump stuck to their strengths. They both embodied what is increasingly the lopsided nature of this race. Over the last 6 months, ever since he entered this race, the former president Donald Trump has methodically taken out one opponent after another. The latest being Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, who at one point seemed like Trump's biggest challenger. But he bowed out over the weekend grudgingly after a below-par performance in Iowa last week. He also belatedly endorsed Trump. But Nikki Haley is hoping that she can stop Trump in his tracks. And she's hoping that she can begin to do that in New Hampshire.
I voted for Donald Trump twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. But rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. You know I'm right. Chaos follows him. And we can't be a country in disarray and have a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos because we won't survive it.
Haley dashed off to about half a dozen events in New Hampshire, attended by small clutches of voters on the very last day of campaigning. Trump, on the other hand, presented a contrasting picture. He started off the day in New York for an optional court appearance. This was in a civil defamation trial. That appearance ended up being postponed. He had no other public appearances until the evening. And then he held a rally in Laconia in New Hampshire, surrounded by 3 former contestants for the Republican ticket. All 3 of them lost to Trump, and all 3 of them are now endorsing Trump. That's Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, tech billionaire Vivek Ramaswamy, and Governor Doug Burgum of North Dakota.
Got a lot of Democrats voting for her. You have a crazy election. Let's all get out and let's vote for somebody that we want to run against. They want to run against because she's so easy to beat. If you look at the polls, Biden beats her by a lot. We cannot have that.
Nikki Haley that could effectively end the race for Nikki Haley. She's hoping for a better show in New Hampshire because the next state is her home state of South Carolina. She's riding on the fact that if she were to put up a good show in New Hampshire, then she could keep her campaign alive until at least Super Tuesday, which is in the first week of March.
And what the people of New Hampshire should know is when we win the presidency in this country, I will do everything I can to prove to you that you made the right decision. But for now, I'll leave you with this. May the best woman win.
Ron DeSantis' departure from the race has given Haley the one-on-one showdown with Donald Trump that she has always wanted. But the Florida governor's grudging endorsement of Trump, a rival who had bullied him for months, that only seemed to add to an aura of inevitability around Trump being the eventual nominee. Haley pleaded with New Hampshire voters on Monday to change the primary's direction. Underscoring the one-on-one contest vis-a-vis Donald Trump, she said to voters in Franklin, New Hampshire, "Do we want more of the same, or do we want a new generational leader?" Trump, having all but declared that this primary was over at a rally on Sunday night in Rochester, New Hampshire, said that he would not ask Haley to exit the race if she did not win the state. "I do not ask people to drop out," said Trump. "They drop out of their own volition." But he was quick to add that perhaps she should. But not everyone is happy with the Trump effect on the Republican Party. The Republican Party has narrowed its base considerably because Donald Trump is an extremely divisive cult figure who basically does not attract large segments of the wider population. But he does energize the Republican base. He does attract a very fervent following. The party is becoming less and less the majority party, the party of governance that it used to be, and now is appealing more and more to a narrow party base. And that is having trouble winning elections in battleground swing states. Trump's beleaguered Republican detractors, the ones within the Republican Party who hate Trump, they argue that the Trumpian vision is one of chaos, of authoritarianism, and division. It is not a message or a vision of unity, and that is precisely why it is not good enough to win middle ground states. And that is an argument that's being put forth by Nikki Haley and her campaign, that Trump has lessened the appeal of the Republican Party to a much more narrower but ferocious base. And that base will not stand a chance against a much bigger rainbow coalition that the Democrats have put together from Obama's time. And her argument is also that despite Biden's unpopularity, that rainbow coalition will see the Democrats home in a general election. Now, whether or not that message, that argument, cuts ice with the voters of New Hampshire is an open question. But Haley and team are hoping that the most moderate Republicans and independents, particularly in a liberal state like New Hampshire, will buy into that argument. And she has powerful people backing that claim. Americans for Prosperity Action, the conservative group that's backed by the mega donors, the Koch brothers, Charles and David Koch, they are campaigning hard for Nikki Haley. They suggest that she is the most electable Republican in the field. Some polls have also shown Nikki Haley beating President Biden by a much wider margin than any of the other Republican contestants if a general election were to happen today. More immediately, she also has some appeal amongst New Hampshire's largest political constituency, which is independent voters. Republicans are hoping that Tuesday's vote count could break the record for primary turnout in New Hampshire. The current Republican primary record is of about 285,000 voters that was set back in 2016 when Donald Trump won. Back then, he defeated a crowded GOP field. Him winning New Hampshire back in 2016 helped propel momentum into his campaign, and eventually he went on to clinch the Republican nomination. Chris Ager, who is the chairman of the New Hampshire Republican Party, has suggested that this year as many as 300,000 people could participate in the primary. Critically, this primary in New Hampshire is open to independent voters. That is a key voter bloc, which accounts for about 40% of the 900,000 voters in the state. And that is a bloc that Nikki Haley is hoping will back her in big numbers so that she can challenge the Trump juggernaut. A lot will get decided Tuesday night. All right, so you saw that report outlining why this New Hampshire primary is so important for both the contestants, Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. Let's try and make more sense of this by going across to Gloria Pesmino. She's CNN correspondent joining us live from Manchester in New Hampshire. Thank you very much, Gloria, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Can you outline for our viewers what is at stake in this New Hampshire primary? It's the first primary of the season in this election cycle. What is at stake both for Nikki Haley and for Donald Trump?
Well, look, this is a significant race here in New Hampshire. This is meant to kick off the nominating process for the GOP nominee for the presidential election. So whatever happens here tonight is going to be significant. But we have a two-person race, and that's a little bit of a surprise. Usually this early in the process, we have several more candidates that are trying to win an election, but now it's down to former President Donald Trump and his former UN ambassador Nikki Haley. The former South Carolina governor has been making the case to New Hampshire voters here trying to cast herself as a clean break from the Trump era. She says she will bring generational change to the Republican Party, but it's not clear if that argument is going to be good enough for voters here in New Hampshire. Most polls have Trump comfortably in the lead. Trump has been making the argument that this race is pretty much over. He has gotten several endorsements from former challengers, and he has already set his sights on South Carolina. That's the next big primary contest in this process. So all of this may be over a lot sooner than we had expected if Trump is able to win New Hampshire tonight. It's going to be really hard for Nikki Haley to continue making the argument that she can stay in the race.
And why is she betting so much on New Hampshire? Because it's considered to be a slightly more moderate state, certainly compared to Iowa, the first state which went into caucuses. She's thrown in a lot of money. Some big name super PACs are backing her. Why is she staking so much on this one state?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, New Hampshire is important in the nominating process, even though compared to the rest of the country, it's not necessarily representative of other parts of the country. But this is a race that historically attracts a lot of attention. And the state of New Hampshire takes great pride in being the first primary state and really kicking off this process. So that's the reason why Nikki Haley, or frankly any other candidate in the race, would have devoted a lot of resources. There is another big component to consider as to why Nikki Haley has devoted so much time and resources to New Hampshire, and that is undeclared voters. That's the way the system for voting is set up here in the state. And what that means is that if you are not a voter if you're a voter that's not registered with either one of the parties, either Republican Party or the Democratic Party, you can cast your vote for either candidate depending on who you want to support. So that means that she can appeal to a wide swath of people who may not necessarily vote Republican or even some Democrats that are not willing to support Joe Biden. So that is key, and that has been a central part of her campaigning effort here in the state, appealing to undeclared voters. They make up about 40% of the electorate here. So it's a lot of people. The majority of voters here in New Hampshire are actually undeclared. So that's why she has spent so much time and so much resources hoping to make that case.
And Gloria, on the other side, for Donald Trump, of course, he won Iowa in a big fashion, getting more than 50% of the vote. He also, after Iowa happened, managed to get some significant endorsements, including from the likes of Vivek Ramaswamy and more recently Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, who bowed out of the race over the weekend. How may that change the course of this New Hampshire primary, if at all, the fact that Trump has managed to get the endorsements of some of his former contestants?
Well, the Trump campaign is certainly trying to send a message to voters that the Republican Party is coalescing behind him, right? You mentioned Vivek Ramaswamy. He was at a rally supporting Trump last night alongside other former challengers. Tim Scott was there, the senator for South Carolina, and so was Doug Burgum, the governor, who also endorsed him. And as you said, Ron DeSantis, who initially had entered the race as the biggest threat to Trump, not only dropped out of the race, but also endorsed him. The two have not appeared together yet, but it is very significant that all these challengers are dropping out and immediately endorsing him. He is trying to make the argument that he is basically the only person left in this race and that the race is essentially over, not just here in New Hampshire, but really in the remainder of the nominating process. As I said, we're still very early in the primary process, the nominating process here in the United States. So he is trying to make the case that he's the candidate that Republicans are willing to support. And the polls suggest that some voters are agreeing with him. Now, we shouldn't focus entirely on the polls because sometimes voters do things differently, or the results look a lot different than what the polls were forecasting. But he is just trying to convince voters that there should be a rematch between him and President Joe Biden, and pushing his Make America Great Again agenda, as he calls it, and promising to bring back much of the policies and agenda items that he tried to put in place while he was president, after he became president in 2016.
And finally, Gloria, the two campaigns so far, and like you said, the field is whittled down to just two candidates. It's Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. And the picture's been quite contrasting in the manner in which they've been campaigning. She's, of course, been out there attending event after event. Mr. Trump has largely, stayed away from the campaign. He's had much fewer events compared to Nikki Haley. He wants to wrap this up as quickly as possible. And I guess her attempt is to try and stretch this for as long as she can, because after this, the next state is South Carolina, which is a home state where I guess if you're an incumbent from there, if you're a resident from there, you're a former governor from there, you would fancy your chances. Just walk us through, what's the way forward after New Hampshire, depending on what the result is tonight.
Yeah, you're exactly right about the way Trump has approached campaigning, not just here in New Hampshire, but really also in Iowa so far. Remember, Trump is still facing 91 charges, and he's got 4 different cases and trials against him. So he's been spending a lot of time back in New York City attending court, and has been flying back and forth